We live in Germany, and I and one of the friends we were visiting are Wiccans, some sort of witchcraft religion. A holiday was coming up soon, so we asked our friends to join us for a little ritual. For this, we needed some corn leaves. We went down on the quest to gather some. It was pitch black and probably about 11 p.m. or so. We were already well out of the city and in the middle of nowhere on a path between fields. There were 4 people in our group, including me. I was holding the only flashlight. Everyone had a beer and music going, and the mood was fairly good. Nobody was scared at all. All of a sudden, though, my friend who was walking slightly in front of me stopped and said, "I think something's walking there." I got this instant chill coming over me. As we all stopped, I began to hear something rustling in the high grass beside the path. A scream rang out in the night, the kind of scream you'd make while being stabbed to death. But it wasn't coming from any of us. I don't know why I just froze there. I just got scared from 0 to 100 in a single millisecond. My friend said, "It's okay. I'm sure it's just a deer." The others tried to reaffirm as well. "Yeah, it's just a deer." I was calming down pretty fast because I was thinking to myself, okay, yeah, that makes sense, I guess. The rustling started up again, though. I shined my light out into the grass, but I didn't see anything. Nothing. I thought I should have been able to see a deer because I was holding the flashlight and pointing it right in there. I should have seen something. The grass on both sides was obviously moving and rustling, but I couldn't see anything there. I began to scream because I was so scared. My friend pointed out that she'd seen something standing at the side of the road, then suddenly crawling across. I still had not seen anything myself. She began to scream too. The other 2 were too scared to say anything at all. I was already hysterical and crying and screaming when we heard the rustling, now closer than ever, and what sounded like giggling, like an evil, malicious giggling. I'm really not trying to be dramatic. We all confirmed afterwards that that's exactly what we'd heard. I was starting to have a little bit of a panic attack. I was crying and the others were scared as well. We just started to book it back to town. I swear, in the single moment I looked behind me, it looked like there was someone crouching in the grass, smiling. I'd never run that fast in my entire life. It certainly wasn't a deer, I'll tell you. That's why they'd giggled like that and stalked us in the grass. I have no idea. My friend and I both just don't know what we should think about this event. I would say it was pretty damn spooky, though. I have a bad habit of walking alone at night. I love it, though. I know it's not the best plan as a small woman, but it's one of those things that just gives me joy. Speaks to my soul, I guess, as cheesy as that may sound. I carry pepper spray and keep my phone in my hand, but hell if I'll let fear ruin something I love. Summer nights are the best, really. The light lingers forever in the Pacific Northwest. You get these endless twilights and there's this beautiful breath of coolness coming out of the dense green, even when it's been hot in the daytime. I lived in the desert as a teenager, so I just loved the cool, silky feeling air here. Soaking up that night air is amazing. I live in a small town at the head of a very long rural trail that winds through lowland marshy areas, dense woods, fields, and at night is silent and isolated. 99% of the time, nobody is out there in the night except for me, the bats, and a rare bicyclist. Once you get outside the city limits about a mile, there's nobody to mess with you. There's nobody looking to mess with you either, if you get my meaning. The only houses are sparse and far across ravines and fields covered with blackberry cane. No streetlights and no easy exit from the trail either. I put one headphone in and walked for hours and miles. I usually take a big crossbody purse with some water, my ID, and a little cash, and start while the light is just leaving the sky. I only use my phone light when it gets pitch dark. This night I was really far out into the boonies, just me and the maple trees. It was fully dark, really, really deep dark then. I was cruising along listening to a podcast in one ear with my phone lighting up the way. A beautiful night, just soaking it in. I'd been out there for a few hours and was now heading back. Suddenly, though, there was like this extra black patch, a big splotch of darkness moving across the trail. It took me a second to realize that's not a trick of the light. There actually was something there. There was a black mass blocking the trail in front of me. I started to get the chills. This was not normal, and this thing was between me and my home. There was no other choice. So I slowly crept up to whatever this was, and I noticed a black puddle. As I got closer, I started to make out that these were smears of blood. Not like a ton, but this was definitely blood on this paved trail. I walked closer and queued up 911 on my phone. The shadow resolved itself into a man in a big flappy black coat, now sprawled across the whole trail and surrounded by bloodstains. "Hey, are you okay?" To my surprise, the guy sat up. He was grimy, incoherent, and kind of chipper. "Oh, I'm okay, I'm just resting. You got any water?" I forked over my water bottle and told him to go ahead and keep it. He took it and thanked me, said he'd scraped his foot and wandered around a bit before deciding to take a breather, which was where the blood was from. I recognized him, though. He was a local druggie. I asked him if I should call anyone, 911 or whatever. He didn't respond and just looked at me. I carefully skirted around him and quickly hurried back home. I did not have particularly warm and cozy feelings about him having hosed off his puke from my porch multiple times, and I'd been called the "see you next Tuesday" word more than once by him, so I decided to leave it at that. A few days later, he attacked a random tourist with a machete downtown in broad daylight, nearly sliced their leg off and went to prison, so I guess I had a fortunate encounter that night. At 20 years old, I found myself a single mother to a newborn baby boy. Around the same time, a relative was having trouble with their tenant who rented a mobile home they owned out in the country. Eager to have my own space for me and my baby, I jumped at this opportunity. After settling in, I decided to take advantage of the stretch of road and start going for walks and pushing my baby in the stroller. We would walk all the way up past all of the brick houses and back out onto the main road, then turn around and walk back down to our trailer. One of those days we were out walking, heading back down the hill, when I saw him. A tall, dirty, freakishly lanky man in tattered, filthy clothing, standing amongst the tree line, kind of hunched over. He was staring right at me and just swaying back and forth. I hesitantly waved, but he just kept on staring instead of reacting. Instead of heading directly back down to the trailer, I turned around and made another lap back up to the main road. Whoever this guy was, I didn't want him to know I lived there all alone. I walked slowly on my way back down. Thankfully, he was gone by the time I got home. I went inside and locked the door. I had an unsettled feeling for the rest of the night, though. The next day on our walk, we walked up to the main road. On the way back down, I saw the man again, walking in my direction. I felt my heart pounding as we approached one another. I started to veer off to the other side of the road to avoid him, but he mimicked my movements and walked right up to me. He was beyond skinny, beyond dirty, and his teeth were so rotten they were black and barely clinging onto his discolored gums. "What's your name?" he asked, standing in front of me. For some reason, out of pure shock, I guess, I told him my real name at once. He nodded and started walking again, as if that's all he'd wanted to know. That night, I laid my sleeping baby in his crib in the nursery. As I walked back to the other side of the house to check on the baby, I had to walk past the back door. It was one of those metal doors with a diamond-shaped window at the top. As I walked by out of my peripheral vision, I could see a face in the window. I knew it was him. I ran into the nursery, my heart beating into my neck. I slammed the door closed and got down on the floor beside my sleeping baby's crib. My cell was the only phone in the house, and it was in the bathroom. There was silence. Then I heard a dreaded knock on the front door. A chill went through me, and I was frozen with fear. Another knock, and suddenly my mind started working. He's been watching me for months. He knows I'm here, I thought to myself. I was afraid if I didn't do anything, he would try to force his way in. I got brave and walked to the door. "Who is it?" I yelled. "It's me. Open the door," he said calmly but sternly. "No, please go away." I screamed at the top of my lungs. I remember feeling so helpless. I ran and grabbed my phone. This was the first time I'd ever called 911. By the time the police got there, of course, he was gone, They told me they were already aware of previous bad behavior from him, but since he didn't technically do anything to harm me, there wasn't much they could do. It's been 7 years now, and I still have terror-filled flashbacks of that night. I wondered just how often he watched me. This happened years ago, but the thought of it still keeps me up at night. I was walking through the hills of a provincial park with my dog during winter, so the sun set much faster than I'd expected, and before I could get back to my car. Once the sun was well and truly gone, all you could see was darkness. I was walking slowly through a dark field when, out of nowhere, I had, to this day, the most gut-wrenching, undeniable feeling I was being watched. I turned around to check, only to see in the distance a figure standing there, somehow darker than the area around us. The instant I saw this person, my stomach dropped and my body froze in place. I knew at that moment he was coming for me. I grabbed my dog's leash and we booked it. I mean sprinting, full on speed, up and down the hills, around the trees, down embankments. I was running so fast it was as if my life depended on it. And to this day, I'm sure it did. I made the 30 to 40 minute trip in about 15 minutes. All that stood before me in my car was this switchback. You had to go back and forth up if you want to reach the top. Once again, I gave it all that I had, running up as fast as I possibly could. When I reached the top and looked back down for a moment, I could see the person behind me chasing after me. Did he go up the switchback like how any sane person would? No, of course not. He started sprinting right up the middle, headed straight for me. I screamed at him to screw off, but he didn't say anything, not a single word, just running full sprint right towards me. I was lucky. My car was at the top of the hill. As I ran towards it, just like in horror movies, I stumbled over something and dropped my keys. I was fiddling with them, trying to open the door before he arrived. Just in time, I managed to get it open, throwing my barking dog in and slamming the door behind me just as the man reached us. Best part is, as I looked around, there were no other vehicles parked anywhere around us. So where had this person parked? As I looked to the side, I could see they'd parked right next to me, of all places. This guy jumped into his truck so fast. To this day, I've never seen a better example of speeding out of there like a bat out of hell. I mean, he slammed on the engine so hard, black smoke jetted out of the back as he swerved out of the lot, leaving skid marks on the ground behind him. I sat in the back of my vehicle for hours afterward, shaking and crying, knowing I was this close to whatever he had planned for me. That's why I share this story in hopes that people won't ignore that gut feeling, that voice in the back of your head that tells you to run. If I did that day, I never would have noticed him in time and would not have had the head start I needed to escape. Always trust your gut feelings and intuition. It really might be the deciding factor on if this is your final day on Earth or not.